Let's say you're about to go fishing and you don't have access to a line machine to spool your reel. I'm going to show you guys a way to easily and simply spool it yourself. You're going to need a bucket, monofilament backing, braided line, a glove, and some snips. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your monofilament backing and place it in the bucket. After you do that, you're going to take the end of the monofilament backing and place it through the first guide on the rod. Make sure your bail is open so that when you close the bail, you can reel the line onto the spool. You're going to take your line. It doesn't have to be too fancy. I like to do a couple overhand knots. Make sure they're nice and tight though when you go to knot them. I'm doing 3 overhand knots. Once you have that excess, this is where your snips come in handy. Take your snips and trim as close as you can. Now that your line is on the spool, you're going to flip your bail over and you're going to put your glove on. The reason why we use a glove is because if you're running a line through your fingers, you may burn them, so using a glove can prevent that. Push your bucket out a little bit. Now you're going to pinch your line between your 2 fingers and start reeling. The bucket prevents the spool of monofilament backing from getting too out of control and me pinching the monofilament going on the spool very tight. Remember to apply enough pressure on your monofilament to keep it tight on the spool when you reel. Okay, we have a sufficient amount of backing on the reel. A sufficient amount, I would say, is about half the spool filled with backing because the braid is very thin. Okay, now I'm going to remove my gloves so I can cut the line and tie my next knots. You're going to want to cut the backing outside of the first ring. Okay. Next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove your backing from the bin, and now you place your braided line in the bin. Now we're going to have to tie a knot attaching braid to monofilament. To attach my braid to my monofilament, I like to tie a uni to uni knot. It's a very strong knot and I never have to worry about it failing. First, you got to cross over the 2 lines on top of each other. Then you make a loop with the braided end like that. Twist it around the monofilament and braid with the braided tag end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times should do. And pull that, cinch that down. Next, you want to do the same thing, just the other way around. Now at the monofilament end, make a loop. I'll go a little less on the monofilament because it's thicker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times is fine. And we cinch that down. Now we take both ends and pull them together. And from here, we snip our tag ends. So we're left with a knot like that. Now we're going to repeat the process again of putting the line on the reel. Take your glove, put your glove back on so you don't burn your fingers. Make sure your lines aren't twisted. Pinch your line. And just start reeling. Remember to pinch your line nice and tight when you do reel it on the spool, or else it will dig into itself if you do hook the big one. Also, be careful not to overspool your reels, or that will cause knots and casting problems. So be conscious of how much line does go on your spool and not to overfill it. I'll show you guys how much is the perfect amount. Looks like we have the perfect amount on here, and I'm ready to cut the line and go casting. Notice the amount of line I did put on this spool. This is the right amount to put on. Anything more may cause issues on your reel when you cast.
Find the tackle brands that you trust most at Dick's Sporting Goods or Dix.com.